Now we're going to show another way of creating of using the cylindrical maps. For this relief that we have here, I'm going to turn on the boxes as well so you see where it supposedly belongs. And let's create first the texture for these boxes. So, because we're going to match them, as we see in the example that is already completed, there is a brick texture, then that brick texture goes along this kind of capsule-shaped relief. So how do we do this? First, we're going to create a material for these two boxes. One would think like, well, we could apply the same material, but we want it to be a different scale than the brick on the base, even though it's the same motif. But for that, we're going to create a new material by object. So one could say, yeah, we can just apply this, but actually we don't want it to be the same, so we can make a duplicate of this one. So and rename it top brick box. And then we just need to make sure that each of these has their adequate maps. So we're going to apply a box mapping. And if we apply a box mapping that goes along the whole prism, right, the whole box, we can see how it gets distorted. We need to then know what are the proportions of this, right? Like we have proportion of 100 by 300, so it's a proportion of 1 by 3. That means that if we're going to fix the issue of the distortion, we can go to the material here and in the brick say like, well, I want it to be repeated twice in U, but actually 6 times in Y, which is the same as if we, same proportions as if we say 1 and 3. And then, sorry, actually, this is good to find out which side is U and which side is V. You can just try and see that in this case it's reversed as I did it. So 1, 2, 3. And then the map is actually correct to proportion. Now, if I wanted to make it smaller, then I would need to work with multiples of this. So like 2 to 6. Okay, and then I have it smaller, but it's still within proportion. We see that this one still doesn't have the map, and that's why it's weirdly stretched. So let's apply it, another box map, and same, enter. And since it has the same material applied, now they both look the same. This is the best way of doing it in order to then export to Unreal. You can also do it by adjusting the map itself. Now let's see how to do this cylindrical map. How to apply this material here, because if we would go ahead and apply the same material, and we just apply the brick box, you see that we have some issues here, right? So let's go ahead and create the best for this form will be a cylindrical map, because it's more or less like a cylinder. And then let's create a cylindrical map, and we're gonna apply it from the center here, going up to there. Okay, hit enter. And now you see that we have some issue, right? Up here is creating this strange shape because we made a capped cylinder when we show the mapping. Well, it's creating also the caps. So what we need to do is delete this map and create a new cylindrical map that is like this. And then when it asks us up here if it's capped, we will say no. So, okay, now it's getting more like we're getting closer to what we wanted. But now let's say that we need to match the size of the brick to the size of the bricks in these boxes here, right? So let's turn on the mapping for both of them, right? If I want both of them to match, then I need this one to be the same height as the other one. So I'm gonna go into one of the side views, and I'm gonna align this to the bottom. And now I'm gonna do scale 1D and use this point and the quadrant. Oops, sorry, that was wrong. I'm gonna use the quadrant here and this quadrant there. and make it the same height. So now at least the bricks are matching. Now the problem that we have is that the bricks in the cylinder appear stretched. So for this, we will need to change the tiling proportions, right? And since we don't want to change the ones for the boxes, we're going to create a duplicate material here. So top brick box 01, instead, I'm going to call it top brick box cylinder. And now, since it's a new material, I can adjust the mapping here. So what I need is to make it less stretched in the horizontal. So I need to repeat more times. So let's try it with 3. And we see that it's already looking quite well, right? So I'm going to leave it there. With this, what we get is a texture that is pretty well matching, applied to two different geometries.